Good morning. My name is Maria Carreira. I'm a PhD student in architecture here at IST. And this work was developed along with Luisa Caneja Silva, who is also a PhD student. She's somewhere in the audience. Hi, Luisa. And under the supervision of Professor Teresa Heitor, who I can see her from here, but she's there, I guess. Oh, there you are. And it can be framed within the environment behavioral studies. As architects for several years, we're particularly interested on space design and how the space facilitates the human behavior and the social interactions, particularly the learning spaces. So, let's start in this room. How do you feel in this room? It's inspiring? Is it inspiring? Does it facilitate you to interact with the person next to you? Maybe not, right? How would you feel if you had to study all alone in the middle of this room? What if it was all painted in black? Have you ever thought about your favorite learning place? Was it a formal space like a library or something noisier like a coffee shop? What we're trying to present here is how the space influences the knowledge acquisition. So here we are, both working very hard on promoting the design of university learning settings. So we want to create this tool that is an evidence-based design tool that promotes the design of university learning settings that are student-centered and efficient. The research aims at understanding the impact of the physical environment in the process of new knowledge generation and its transmission. It relies on the premise that the university physical setting includes the buildings, but also the spaces within them. These spaces are called the third spaces, as described by Ken Fisher. And these spaces help to build up the identity and the culture of the universities. So, what world-class universities, for instance? Can you recall a world-class university? When you picture it in your head, what comes to your mind? Usually a physical setting, right? How about when you log into their websites? Have you ever tried that? I'm sure you did. Typically, you see someone reading a book or reading a tablet, maybe in the lawn or under a tree in the garden. You see a landmark, you see a culture, not only the super fancy lab that they do have. So this research was framed within Professor Pablo Campos Sotelo's theoretical framework of the educational campus, which characterizes the university learning setting in a broader context, from personal spaces like the compartment, which can be an office, can be an amphitheater, a classroom, a laboratory, to larger scales like the building, which has the atriums and the corridors and recesses, to the precinct, and to the city. And it emphasizes the articulation of the university precinct and its direct connection to the city, because this relationship goes both ways. The university facilitates things like the sports facilities, libraries, research centers. But on the other hand, we also have the city that facilitates the medical assistance, accommodation, cultural entertainment. That's why it is so important to refer to the city and to the university and to their relationship. So just a small remark that we always refer to the university facilities as precincts, because the name campus is associated to the American model of university facilities as described by Thomas Jefferson. That's why we say it precinct. It's a small detail. Now, what we know is that new learning strategies demand new settings. And what we are trying to know is how to affirm our existing buildings as active learning environments, how to integrate the formal and informal learning, which settings facilitate student-centered learning, how to integrate the formal and informal learning environments, and how to facilitate student-centered learning. So these new strategies, new pedagogical strategies, demand new settings. So the conventional classroom, space and time, no longer fulfills every need. That's why we advocate, and we say it with great pride, that we must apply to the continuous learning place. I'm sure you've all been to school, and how much time did you spend in each of these settings? I'm sure you've all been in such a pretty drawing like this. And what is known is that the students spend a very small percentage of their learning time in classrooms and labs. That's why these third spaces are so important, because they're vital for the knowledge generation and acquisition. So, sorry. These continuous learning places must assume that this one-size-fits-all model of teaching and learning is no longer the answer to all our questions. That's why we must scope every type of space that enables transformative learning experiences in order to know which settings facilitate what interaction. So, the continuous learning place is a network of settings where knowledge is generated, acquired, and transmitted. It's not just the classroom. It's the recess in the corridor. It's the cafe in the library. It's the garden. It's the subway you used to get home. It's your own bedroom. Because study isn't restricted to university facilities. What if there weren't continuous learning places scattered throughout urban surroundings? The city and the universities benefit with these settings. These university learning settings depend on the framework and the context where the university is embedded, because every university is unique. It depends on the social and geographical characteristics where it is. It depends on the learning and pedagogical theories that they do, and this all helps to build the university culture, which is very important for the university identity and for the university brand. What if we didn't encourage innovative teaching based on critical and creative thinking? The society wouldn't benefit, neither the university. That's why we must build such spaces that promote the culture and the knowledge acquisition and the new creation of knowledge, and enable the society and higher institutions to build new ideas. Wait, sorry. So we're trying to do, I'm sorry, I also have small ears. We're developing an analysis framework which scopes different variables, and this is only a brief summary of our assessment tools. And it scopes different subjects. The scale, as mentioned before, because study isn't restricted to closed compartments. The learning mode, whether it is teacher or student-centered. The actors that are present in the learning process, which are the student, expert, and object. This object was based on Bruno Latour's actors' networks theory, which gives a great emphasis on the object as playing a role in the knowledge acquisition, in the sense that this object can be a book, can be a microscope, or even a coffee machine. Not that we are learning to make cappuccinos, maybe our friend earlier can teach us, but in the sense that when I'm going to get my cup of coffee, I can meet another researcher, and we both can interact and advance both our knowledges. Then the interaction, it has in count the language type and the courtesy rules present in the actors. The environmental characteristics, This never intended to be an environmental study, but it is important to assess whether the user is comfortable or not. For example, if it was freezing cold here, we wouldn't feel comfortable. We wouldn't be able to concentrate, although we were listening to our great talk, right? But the color, the noise, the temperature, is it a vibrant color? Is it a soothing color? And then the morphology, which characterizes the space so that we can know how knowledge is transmitted. In this section, we have several criteria. For example, with the size and the capacity, we can analyze the density of the space. That has a lot to do with our perception of the space and how comfortable we feel in it. And for example, the cross-section, if we were here in an amphitheater, maybe I could see you better, but then on the other hand, this would have a much more formal setting. So all of this is going to be analyzed. And then the urban insertion, which characterizes university premises as segregated or integrated in the urban fabric, and analyzes the morphology, the boundaries, the limits, and the insertion of the precinct in the city. So with this criteria, we want to promote high-performance settings that facilitate the generation, sharing, and acquisition of knowledge, and enable not only students, but also teachers and researchers to undergo transformative learning experiences. Because the university and its connection to the city exceeds the physical connection. The postmodern global university has several missions, not only education, but also research and public service. That's why it is so important to promote strategic partnerships to beneficiate both the university and the society. So, with this research, we want to promote high-performance new learning settings that facilitate new learning experiences, that enable new settings for the knowledge creation, promote synergies with the city, and thus improve the competitiveness of the universities. So, thank you very much.